everybody, this is Sarah with The Rational Dog, and I am here with T today. Are you here with me, T? T's here with me today. And we are not really doing training today. We're just going to talk for a few minutes about it's kind of a dog trainer hack that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily know about. So what we're talking about today is how the size of your collar and how the placement of your collar on your dog's neck can totally change how they respond to you when you're working with them. And kind of the rule of thumb in dogs, and it's also, I kind of got it from horses though, is that the smaller the width of your collar, the more of an impact it makes on your dog. So just like in horses, they say that the finer the bit, the harsher, but the more of an impact it makes on your horse, the more of an impression it makes on your horse. Hey, stay here. So this is the same thing with collars. That's why when you see show dogs in conformation shows, they're on really, really fine leads, but they're also on really, really fine collars. And those really, really fine collars are right up here behind the dog's neck for the most part. And we'll get into how the placement of the collar affects things in just a minute, but first, just the size of it. Be thinking, if you are not having really good control using your leash with your dog, take a look at your tool and see how big, like how thick your collar is that you're using. Whether you're using a prong collar, whether you're using a choke collar, choke chain, if you're using a slip lead, if you're using a flat collar, martingale collar, it doesn't really matter. But the width of it does. So T, of course, she's gonna wander around here. So come here, T. Let's show the world what you're wearing. I'm gonna turn my camera. So what T's got on right now, T is my oldest dog. She is almost 8, maybe. She's 7 or 8. You're kind of old. But she doesn't need a ton of leash support to get good control of her, so she's got a pretty thick, this is a slip lead that she's wearing. She's got a pretty thick slip leash. But for Noelle, when we're out on walks together, Noelle is wearing a half-inch thick martingale collar. That's what Horton is wearing too, because they're both very distractible little people, and they need some help from the leash at times to remember to be good citizens. So if you have a dog and they just don't pay attention to the leash and they don't pay attention to leash corrections, you may consider going down a size and making it kind of a thinner leash, or not leash, making it a thinner collar. And the other thing that I want to talk about today is how the placement of your collar can make a big difference. And this is what you can do when you are out and about and your dog gets reactive to something, or they get really distracted and you can't get their attention back. If you move your collar from like the regular spot where your dog's collar is, she's good because she's got this nice little band of black on her coat right here where a regular collar would sit. If they start to get really distracted, you can take your lead, of course she's got so much hair, and you can put it right up here behind their ears just like a show dog. And what that does, first of all, it changes their leverage. They're not able to lean into the collar and pull against it the way that they are when it's further down on their neck right here. Just because of the physics in their body. They can't physically get their heads down to pull against it that way. And the other thing is they have a lot of nerves up here right behind their ears, and we don't, yeah, see, she's like, yes, rub that. And I don't mean that in a, I want you to hurt your dog way, but it's a good way to remind them that you exist. If they are totally tuning you out for whatever reason, you can move your collar up, they can't lean into it, and then any pressure that you put is going to put some pressure on their nerve bundles there, and they'll pop around and say, what do you want? So you'll find a lot of dog trainers who use prong collars. They advise to have a smaller prong collar right up here behind the ears, and the reason for that is because when you have a smaller prong collar, it's going to be a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? It's not the word harsh. That's what keeps coming to my head. But it's gonna make more of an impact to the dog if you give a correction, and that means that your dog is going to work a lot harder to avoid a correction, and you need to use a whole lot less pressure when you are correcting your dog or when you are giving any leash support to your commands, because the dog is much more responsive to that. And so that is the thinking behind that. You know, if you hear of dog trainers who want you to put a smaller collar right up behind the ears all the time when you're training, that's the reason, because you use less force when you're training the dog and using the leash to back it up. So my personal recommendation is kind of like when I was a special education teacher, we talked about the least restrictive environment. You want to teach the children, teach individuals with disabilities in the least restrictive environment that they can be successful in. It's the same thing with dogs and the tools that you use. You want to use the least restrictive tools that you can and still have your dog be successful. So for example, T, she's out here in this she's out here in this slip leash. She's totally fine. She'll be, you know, she's 100% reliable off lead too. And so we do a lot of our work off lead. But you know, the puppies, they can't be successful that way yet. And so we use, I use the martingale collars. Like I said, they're about 1/2 inch wide, just for our daily walks. Now, if I start to, you know, for example, when Horton turns, you know, 9 months old and he's full of testosterone and he's just like full of himself, and he really starts ignoring me and he's not responsive and he doesn't care what I think, I may go to a finer collar or a different style of collar, because I want a way to support him so that he can be successful and so that we can maintain our relationship in a happy way. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on size and placement of collars and how that can change how your dog responds to you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I am so happy to answer them for you, and I will see you later. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to get lots of free dog training advice here at YouTube. And if you are having dog training problems yourself, visit the link in the description and take our free quiz to find out what your #1 dog dilemma is and how you can fix it.